I'm going to remarry her. So, divorce me. Since I've supported your life until now, I don't owe you any compensation, right?
My husband said to me without any hint of remorse. I was completely amazed by his shameless attitude. Fine. In exchange, he easily accepted my terms, but he didn't know yet that he will be the one who loses in this divorce. My name is Molly, a 38 years old housewife. I've been married to my husband Kevin for 10 years. We met each other at work where we were colleagues. We recognized each other as colleagues working in the same company. But as we had more opportunities to work together in the same team for projects, the distance naturally became closer. We started dating after going out for drinks together, and then getting to know each other better. After a year and a half of dating, he proposed, and we got married. He asked me to quit my job and become a housewife after we got married. Although I loved my job, I wanted to experience being a housewife, so I quit my job when I got married. We had a happy wedding with many friends and colleagues. Our newlywed life was enjoyable, and I worked hard every day to be a good wife. I bought cookbooks and cooked many dishes to improve my cooking skills. Kevin always enjoyed my cooking and was happy to eat it. He also worked hard at his job. While I earned a slightly higher salary when we were both working, he now earns as much as I did back then. So I decided to work hard as a housewife and save money. I searched for a lot of money-saving tips on the internet and YouTube and used them as references to cut fixed costs as much as possible and reduce food expenses without overdoing it. Thanks to that, I was able to save a considerable amount of money every month. Well, my husband lightly complained that he wanted a little more allowance, but that's a problem that all salarymen have. So, he'll just have to accept that. I continue to work hard as a full-time housewife, striving to save on household chores. I think one of the reasons I was able to work hard like that is because my husband regularly praised me. He always said,
Thank you for working so hard on the housework. I can concentrate on my work without worries.
Hearing him say that makes me happy, and I feel motivated to work even harder. Even after several years of marriage, we were able to live in peace and harmony as a happy married couple. One day, my husband suggested that we buy a house.
The apartment we were living in wasn't too convenient, but it's a little too big for the two of us. I think it's time to buy our house.
I also agreed with Kevin's opinion. We had been saving money all along for a big purchase like this. I also wanted a home of our own. So we immediately went to a real estate agent. We looked at various properties, but we found one that we just knew it belonged to us. Kevin said that as long as his room was spacious and relatively close to the station, he could prioritize my conditions. So we quickly decided on the house, since it already met his conditions. I paid for the down payment from the savings I had saved by cutting down expenses. We took out a loan and moved right away. Life in the new home was comfortable and refreshing, and we were both very happy and felt the excitement over our honeymoon again. When we had just moved in, we invited our friends and had a housewarming party, and we enjoyed our life in the new home. Of course, I have continued to live frugally since then, and I've been saving for the future. We were living comfortably in a spacious house without changing our lifestyle. So there was no way we couldn't be happy. And so, we were living a smooth sailing married life. But there was one problem, which was that we couldn't get pregnant. Kevin and I were not particularly in a hurry to have children, as we believed that having children was a gift of nature that would come naturally. But as it had been about 5 years since we got married, we began to feel anxious that we couldn't get pregnant, even after trying infertility treatment and fertility promotion. So my husband and I both underwent examinations, and it turned out that my husband had a condition which made it difficult for us to conceive. It seemed that he had a low sperm count. We were both a little shocked. My husband said to me,
I'm sorry.
"But there was no way I could hate my husband for such a thing." I said, "We've tried everything we could, so we have no regrets. So let's focus on enriching our life as a couple from now." My husband nodded and thanked me, shedding tears. After that, the two of us decided to live together as a couple. And without any particular problems, we reached our 10th wedding anniversary.
What should we do for our next anniversary?
Well, maybe we should do something luxurious, like going on a trip or dining at a fancy restaurant. How about taking a trip abroad? We had a fun conversation about our anniversary like that. And as a result, we decided to stay at a high-end domestic inn. However, about a month before our anniversary, my husband sadly told me that he had to go on a business trip and couldn't go on the anniversary trip.
I see, but
If it's for work, we can't do anything about it. I was sad, but since our anniversary was on a weekday, he couldn't take the day off from work. Kevin was promoted to section chief 5 years ago, and he is still working hard. And he's trusted by his subordinates, so he couldn't take the day off. Even if he couldn't go on anniversary day, I hoped we could go on a trip on another day. But the inn we wanted to stay at was so popular that we couldn't get a reservation for that month. So we decided to make a reservation for the following weekend. At that time, I never thought that something like that would happen. Then one day, my husband came back drunk, which was unusual for him. He was inebriated and collapsed on the sofa, talking in a way that was incomprehensible. I brought him some water, but he had already fallen asleep. It was a Friday, so he probably went out drinking with his subordinates. At that moment, his smartphone lit up and a text message appeared on the screen. I didn't mean to look, but I saw a heart emoji in the message and couldn't help but stare. The name of a woman, Christine, came up in the message. Although only part of the message was visible, it began with, "Today was really fun," followed by a heart emoji. What could this possibly mean? Is he having an affair? His phone is locked with a password, so I couldn't check it. I felt a sense of confusion and frustration because we have overcome many obstacles together and built a life together. So I wanted to believe in what we had. I was too afraid to ask him directly. Maybe I was just not brave enough. Instead, I decided to hire a private investigator. The result of the investigation came out while Kevin was away on a business trip on the day of our 10th wedding anniversary. Unbelievably, he had been having an affair for a year. He had never shown any signs of infidelity before, but he had been secretly involved with another woman. He had betrayed me, and this fact hit me hard. I was in a shock. Even if he couldn't have children, I had vowed to stay with him forever. But he didn't feel the same way. The woman he cheated with was a woman female employee, 10 years his junior, in other words, his subordinate. I couldn't believe it. I was angry at my husband, and my love for him had cooled instantly. Kevin said he was on a business trip, but maybe he was actually on a trip with his mistress. Come to think of it, he had made the reservations for the hotel. If he was on an affair trip during our 10th wedding anniversary, it would be truly despicable. Since I don't know the truth, it's pointless to think about it. So I decided to prepare for divorce. First, I need to find a job. It has been 10 years since I quit my last job, so it's not easy to get hired. So I decided to search for a job as soon as possible and went to interviews. I thought about going back to my parents' house for a while after the divorce, so I searched for job openings in an area that was easy to commute from my parents' house. I found a part-time job opening at a small accounting firm. Since I had a bookkeeping certification, I decided to apply for the job. When I applied online, I received a response immediately, and I was asked to come in for an interview the next day. I quickly prepared my resume and went to the interview. The president who interviewed me seemed to like me, and to my surprise, I was hired on the spot. I was grateful because getting a job gave me a lot of mental relief. After that, I packed my things and left home immediately so that I could move out as soon as possible. When Kevin returned home from his business trip, he wasn't alone. I had a bad feeling when I saw a woman figure behind him. I had a bad feeling, but I pretended to be calm and asked him, "Who's she?" He then boldly replied, "This is my new wife." When his new wife showed her face to me, I realized that it was the same woman in the evidence photo sent by the detective agency. My husband had brought his mistress to our house. Both of them had suitcase, which means that he was not on a business trip, but had gone on a trip with his mistress. The mistress stared at me triumphantly, and he made a surprising announcement. "She got pregnant with my child, so I'm remarrying her. Divorce me." What are you talking about? I was surprised about the pregnancy, but it seemed like my husband and his mistress thought I was surprised by the divorce being brought up. Kevin and I were meant to be together, not you. "Christine and I love each other. I'm sorry, but please break up with me." I was beyond angry. I was dumbfounded. "I see. You're planning on divorcing me no matter what, huh?" I pretended to be shocked and submissive. "But how did you manage to have an affair? You can't possibly take her on trips with the money I gave you as your monthly allowance." Then he made a surprising statement. "Oh, I wasn't giving you all of my salary." What? I didn't understand what he meant. But his mistress smiled slyly and opened her mouth. "Maybe in your mind, Kevin is still a section chief, but he became a department head since last year. So, he gave you the salary from when he was a section chief and used the rest for our dates." Oh. I felt ashamed for trying to spend my life with someone like him. At first, Kevin was hesitant, but as I didn't talk back or get angry, he became brazen. "Anyway, Christine got pregnant, and I have to be responsible here. Divorce me, okay? Since I've supported your life until now, I don't owe you any compensation, right? You've been able to enjoy being a housewife too." Without any hint of remorse, my husband boldly declared his infidelity. I was actually disgusted by his advocacy. Fine, but in exchange, I want all the property and money we accumulated during our marriage, including this house. When I said that, he replied nonchalantly, "That's fine. With my salary from when I was a section chief, you probably didn't save up that much. Plus, this house isn't that expensive to begin with. Besides, I can easily buy a house like this again." Kevin readily accepted my request, but he still didn't know which one of us was really losing out in this divorce. I took the divorce papers that he brought and signed them. "I'll submit then." "Okay, thanks. I'm glad you're a reasonable person." "I'm glad you were able to get divorced that easily," his affair partner chimed in, clinging to his arm as if to flaunt her victory. But at that point, I didn't feel any regret or bitterness. After all, I was definitely the one who came out ahead. Kevin quickly packed his things and left with his affair partner. After that, I filed for divorce and completed all the necessary procedures for dividing our assets and changing the ownership of the house. I became completely separated from my ex-husband. Then, a month later, my ex-husband suddenly called me.
Hey, what the hell did you do?
Well, hello to you too.
Did you tell the upper management and my colleagues about my affair? They've been flooding with me complaints. And I got demoted by the company and transferred to a branch office in the countryside.
Oh dear, but I didn't tell the company or anything like that. Your company is where I used to work. And there are still a few employees there that I'm on good terms with. It's probably because of them that the news got out.
You're horrible. Don't drag me down just because your life is miserable. By the way, why weren't you at the house? When I stopped by earlier, someone I didn't know came out and surprised me.
Oh, I sold the house.
You sold it? Why would you do something like that?
Well, you didn't know, but I happened to get information that the land value in the area was going up. So I was able to sell it for a lot more than what we bought it for.
No, you're lying, right?
And earlier you said that my life would be miserable. But you're wrong. I worked really hard to save money with the salary you gave me. So even after buying that house, I was able to save almost $100,000.
$100,000?
So, I ended up better off than if I had just received alimony and property distribution. But it's your fault for having an affair. Oh, and by the way, have you forgotten that you have a condition that makes it difficult for women to conceive? Is the child from your affair really yours?
Could it be that Christine has another man?
I don't know, but maybe you should seriously look into it. Anyway, don't bother me anymore. If you showed up in front of me again, I'll report you to the police. Keep that in mind, I said, and hung up the phone and blocked his number. Later, I heard from a former colleague that the child from the affair was indeed not his child. Kevin, feeling angry that he had been deceived and having ended things with his mistress, had lost a lot. He was removed from the career track and had squandered the savings that we had been planning to use together. Currently, he is working in a remote department where he has no acquaintance, feeling ashamed of himself. On the other hand, I'm living with my parents again after a long time, working hard at an accounting firm. With the large sum of money I've earned this time, I plan to invest and increase my assets even further. I want to learn more about my job and aim to eventually be hired as a regular employee. As for romance, I'll take it slow and wait for an opportunity to meet someone. I want to prioritize my time with work and family. Even if Kevin knew that he couldn't have children, it's wrong to betray the person who was stood by him. Molly has the right to receive all the savings in the house. In my opinion, as she had supported that jerk of a husband until now. From now on, I hope she enjoys living a rich life and focuses on being happy. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.